Have you ever wondered what the most impossible thing anyone has ever done in the NBA history is? In this video, we'll be going over and exploring some of the craziest and most impossible records held by players in the NBA. So, sit back and get ready to be amazed by the most mind-boggling NBA records. LeBron James' all-time scoring record. At the top of the list, we have the most recent record set by King James himself, which has been the talk of the town lately. It's been more than 4 decades, but the NBA finally has an all-time scoring champion. The King stands at 38,390 points, 3 points more than Abdul-Jabbar. And to think that James achieved this feat in fewer games than Kareem, despite being a pass-first player, is absolutely crazy.
I just want to say thank you to the Laker faithful. You guys are one of a kind.
This is what LeBron had to say as the game was stopped for a brief ceremony at center court. Keep in mind that LeBron still has a couple more years to go, so the record is still in process. Who knows what the final score comes out to be. Hakeem Olajuwon, most blocks in a career. Next up, we have Hakeem, the dream with the most blocks in a career, and it's much more than you'd expect. Hakeem's career average for blocks per game is 3.1, which is the highest in the NBA. And thanks to his consistent blocking ability throughout his 18-year career, he managed to gather 3,830 all-time blocked shots. Blocking shots at a high level requires a combination of speed, strength, and jumping ability. And as time passes, players become weaker and start losing their abilities.
A steal by Strickland, a lazy pass. Olajuwon blocks it away.
But not Hakeem. He came out on top and most probably will stay there for a long time. Gifru, free throws missed without a make. Decades before Hack-a-Shaq or Shaq existed, for that matter, Hackaroo took place. During the NBA's second season in 1947-48, Gifru of the St. Louis Bombers was sent to the line 20 times, and he missed all 20. Rue's Bombers lost to the Knicks by just 4 points, so leaving 20 points on the board affected the outcome. Rue was a 51.1% career shooter from the line, and the next most free throw misses without a make is Shaq's 11. I don't know about you guys, but I think this one is going to be impossible to break. Jose Calderon's free throw percentage for the season. As impressive as missing the most free throws at the highest level is, it doesn't beat having the highest free throw percentage for the season. Yes, we're talking about Jose Calderon and his astonishing free throws. Now, Jose was never a regular in the spotlight, but at the end of the 2008-2009 season, all eyes were on Jose and Jose alone. At the end of this season, Jose had the best free throw percentage in NBA history. A player needs to attempt at least 125 shots to even be considered for this stat. Calderon attempted 154 and succeeded in making 151 of them. He also had a hot streak of free throws, but that ended at 87, putting him at number 2 on the list of most number of consecutive free throws.
Great chunk out. There it is. Not gonna happen.
Stephen Curry, most three-pointers in a career. Speaking of free throws, who does it better than Chef Curry? Curry currently holds the record for the most three-pointers in a career with 3,302 three-pointers, 29 more than Ray Allen's 2,973 three-pointers. And get this, he did it all in 786 games compared to Ray Allen's 1,300. His record-breaking shot was made at Madison Square Garden, where he scored 11 three-pointers in a game, setting a new record for the most threes made in a single game at that venue.
From the start, Wiggins again. Here's Curry for the record. It's good! And there it is! Stephen Curry! The all-time three-point king in the NBA!
Like LeBron James, Stephen Curry's record is still under construction, which means it's going to be even higher. Curry typically makes between 250 and 300 three-pointers a season, meaning that in a couple more seasons he will reach 4,000. John Stockton career assists. Not only did Stockton rock one of the flyest uniforms in the history of the game, but he also dished the rock better than anyone else could.
He looks to Karl Malone. He's got him low. The mailman jumps it. Shot up. It's there. He did it.
a whopping 15,806 assists over 19 years. He led the NBA in assists for 9 consecutive seasons, from 1993 to 1994 to 2001 to 2002. His record surpasses Jason Kidd's 10,355 assists by over 4,000. That's absolutely wild, considering how highly Kidd is ranked among point guards in a historical context. And to make things even better, Stockton also holds the NBA record for most career steals with 3,265. Now that is impossible to surpass. Most attendance at a game. From 1997 to 1999, the city of Atlanta was building what is currently the Hawks' home arena, and thus they split their home games into 2 arenas. One was on Georgia Tech's campus and had a capacity of just under 10,000. The other was the Georgia Dome, which sat over 62,000. When the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan were in town, almost needless to say, the Hawks held the games in the Georgia Dome and sat at attendance record of 62,046 on March 27, 1998. Jordan didn't disappoint with 34 points in a Bulls win, but the NBA doesn't seem to have any plans to return to a football stadium, even temporarily. Quadruple-double. Seeing as there have been just 4 of these in NBA history, Nate Thurmond, Alvin Robertson, Hakeem Olajuwon, and David Robinson, it's safe to say that no one is going to break this record of 2 quadruple-doubles.
My goodness. Not only a triple-double, but now a quadruple-double for David Robinson.
Unbelievable.
What makes a quadruple-double so tough is getting at least 10 of one of the defensive statistics. You can chase stats in terms of points, rebounds, and assists, but chasing after blocks and steals is much harder. The closest anyone has come to a quadruple-double in recent memory is Draymond Green in 2017. He had a triple-double in rebounds, assists, and steals, but fell short of a quadruple-double by missing out on the easiest stat, points. Green scored just 4 points in that game and had more blocks with 5. AC Green's most consecutive games. Records are meant to be broken, but not all can be, especially when it relates to former Los Angeles Lakers forward AC Green. They called him Iron Man for a reason. Green holds the record for most consecutive games. If there was ever a player of steel in the NBA, it was AC Green. He missed only 3 games in his 16-year career, and all 3 came in his second season. How insane is that? Green retired at the end of 2001, but his NBA record for consecutive games played remains one of the more elusive and utterly mind-bending records in professional sports. To this day, even Green's former teammates cannot fathom his unmatched availability over 2 decades later. Bill Russell most championship rings as a player. When it comes to doing the impossible, not talking about Bill Russell is a cardinal sin. Bill holds the record for the most championship rings as a player. He won 11 championships in his 13-year career. That means he won a championship every year with the exception of 2 years. Bill won 8 of these championships consecutively, and won his last 2 championships in 1968 and 1969 as a player coach. He also received the 2017 NBA Lifetime Achievement Award. Now that is impossible to beat because no recent player has ever come close to beating this record. Most consecutive games won by a team. Okay, so no matter what you do, you will not see this coming. This record is for the most consecutive games won by a team. Any guesses? Well, the answer is a whopping 33 games by the LA Lakers from November 5th, 1971 to January 7th, 1972. Thanks to the leadership of players like Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain, as well as the strong chemistry of the Lakers team, they were able to build this monumental record that still stands as an unbeatable feat. And with the improved league quality, more talented players, and fiercer competition, it's impossible to win 10 games, let alone 33. Moreover, with new rules such as the updated 3-point line and a free throw shooting foul, it has become difficult to achieve a long winning streak, as teams can now score more points from outside the paint. Wilt Chamberlain most points scored in a game. On March 2, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain set the NBA single-game scoring record by tallying 100 points for the Philadelphia Warriors in a 169-147 victory over the New York Knicks. Not 98 points, not 102, but a nice round 100, an imposing record set by a most imposing player. 100 points in an NBA game sounds as brutal as Wilt Chamberlain's game was in an era he dominated mercilessly. The NBA is a league of superstars, but it's also a league of rivalries. And there's nothing like a good old-fashioned grudge match in the NBA. Some of them are friendly, some of them are fierce, and some of them are downright nasty. So, what are some of the most intense and unforgettable NBA rivalries of all time? Let's get to them. So, when we talk about rivalry, the NBA wouldn't be what it is today without the OG Legends rivalry. Back in the day, the Boston Celtics picked Bill Russell in '56. And not long after, the Philadelphia Warriors nabbed Wilt Chamberlain from the Harlem Globetrotters. That's when the first NBA rivalry kicked off. Wilt Chamberlain set 72 records, like scoring a mind-blowing 100 points in a single game. But in terms of championship wins, Bill Russell and the Celtics totally dominated with 11 titles, solidifying their spot as the first big NBA dynasty. So, although Wilt scored way more points overall, Bill Russell got the hardware with almost 6 times as many championships. As well, with its age-old debate of stats versus rings, and these two legends define that rivalry to this day. The next legendary clash that shook the NBA for decades was the 12 face-offs between the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers. Back in the swinging 60s, both teams were dominating the NBA. The Celtics had a total of 11 championships in just 13 years, while the Lakers were snagging 5 titles during the same era. But it was the 80s when things really cranked up a notch. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson going head-to-head, causing sparks to fly and temperatures to rise. And the iconic 2008 NBA Finals, truly a showstopper. Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett led the charge for the Celtics, clinching the victory over the reigning champs, the LA Lakers. Fast forward to today, and we still see the clash between these two powerhouses, with Boston taking the win in the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals, and LA snatching the championship title in 2020. You've got to hand it to them. The rivalry between these teams is strategic, suspenseful, and always full of surprises. But the Celtics aren't the only one the LA Lakers have a clash with. Yep, we're talking about today's tussle between the Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs. One for the NBA history books. It all started in 1999 when the Spurs really gave the Lakers a run for their money during a first-round playoff clash. Things really kicked into high gear after that, with a total of 5 more playoffs in the following 6 years, in which they met in 4 consecutive NBA Final showdowns. But the rivalry hit its peak in the 2008 Western Conference Finals, where legends like Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal squared off against Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker in an epic 7-game series that saw LA emerging victorious. This reminds us of the all-time great rivalry of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. With their different playing styles, things hit fever pitch in the 2004-05 season, when O'Neal made the move to the Miami Heat. That same season saw Bryant pulling a jaw-dropping 81-point game, setting an NBA record, while O'Neal responded with 2,345 points, the highest since Wilt Chamberlain. But in a plot twist, Robinson swooped in and snatched the scoring title from O'Neal by dropping 71 points in the last game of the season. Throughout their time on the court, these titans often clashed through media criticism, and even after O'Neal parted ways with the LA Lakers, he still found ways to throw shade at Dwight Howard for taking on his Superman nickname. Meanwhile, the Miami Heat also have a long-lasting rivalry with the New York Knicks. This saga started back in the 80s when Miami first stepped into the court, and since then they've gone head-to-head 7 times in the playoffs, with the NYK coming out on top in all but one of those showdowns. And this rivalry hit its boiling point in the 90s, with both teams fiercely vying for Eastern Conference titles. In 93, NYK left Miami in the dust. But fast forward to 97, it was a nail-biter, with Miami snatching victory by the tiniest margin, just 3 points. However, it seems like the heat has simmered down between these fierce rivals. They haven't crossed paths in the playoffs since 2012. And Miami has been heating things up more than NYK during regular season matches. But who's to say what the future holds? And the feud between the Detroit Pistons and the Chicago Bulls is a tale as old as time. Chuck Daly's Pistons, known for their tough defense and rough play, earned them the nickname Bad Boys, while the Bulls, led by the one and only Michael Jordan, were itching to overthrow the Pistons' reign in the Eastern Conference. Let's rewind to the thrilling 1989 Eastern Conference Finals. It was a basketball roller coaster filled with jaw-dropping moments, heart-stopping plays, and nail-biting action. The Bulls battled it out and emerged victorious in 6 intense games, sparking the start of their incredible three-peat championship streak. But after the epic showdown, these Titans clashed in the playoffs 3 more times, before taking a breather in the 90s. It was a classic showdown, intense, riveting, and full of surprises at every turn. Speaking of Michael Jordan, who could forget his clash with Isaiah Thomas? It all kicked off in 1979, when they clashed in the NCAA championship game. Jordan was scoring an average of 28.6 points per game, leading his team to a sweet victory. Yet things really got cooking in the late 1980s when their teams were ruling the NBA. The tension hit its peak in 1991 and 1992, with an intense exchange that even needed referees to step in and defuse the situation. Well, Michael Jordan had a whole squad of rivals on his tail, including Clyde Drexler, Patrick Ewing, and John Starks from the Knicks. To keep him in check, they even cooked up what's now known as the Jordan Rules. Meanwhile, Isaiah Thomas had a bit of a tussle with Larry Bird too. Their sparks ignited after some controversial comments made by Thomas, and when they faced off in the playoffs, it felt like they were on opposite sides of a battlefield. But here's the twist. While filming a sneaker commercial, they became the best of buds. But the rivalry that kept us all excited for the last decade was the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. This jaw-dropping saga kicked off in 2011, when they duked it out at Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum, with the Cavs snagging a thrilling double overtime win. Things really heated up as they clashed 4 times in 5 years, including 3 intense showdowns in the NBA Finals. But the 2016 face-off was one for the history books. It was an epic 7-game series, and the Cavs pulled off an unbelievable comeback from a 3-1 deficit to snatch the championship, making them the first team ever to pull off such a comeback. 2011 also started another greatest rivalry of all time, the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA playoffs. It got even hotter when Sixers fans gave Kobe Bryant the hometown treatment by booing him every time he got the ball in the 2012-2013 season. But the flames really caught on when the Nets made their move to Brooklyn for the 2013-2014 season and clashed with the Sixers in the first round of the playoffs. And last but not least, the clash between LeBron James and Kevin Durant is a real battle in today's NBA. They've met 8 times in the playoffs, and Durant holds a 2-1 lead in the finals. But when they face off in regular season games, it's a showdown you just can't miss. Sure, there's been some on-court tension, but LeBron and Durant also have major respect for each other's game. Like, they even had a big hug before the 2016 NBA Finals kicked off. This rivalry is like a throwback to the intense matchups between Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning. Fierce playoff battles accompanied by some serious mutual admiration for each other's skills. So, who's your best pick in these epic clashes? Until next time, keep the basketball fever alive.